Echo days are here again. Kingdom songs without pain. We didn't need to be so cruel. Don't you know you had me fooled? Did you try to kiss confusion? Did you think the world owed you from? Would you think it cruel of me if I go now? Go now.
Vegans are the most inhumane and unnatural animals ever, without a doubt. There's nothing even to compare them to. We have been killing animals for millions of years, or however long you believe the earth has been around, and they want to break the circle of life. Why do I have to make a video about it and point it out? Why isn't everybody in the community talking about it? It's incredible. That's insane. That's only one of the ways they are trying to destroy nature. As I proved in the video about animal physiology, link will be in the description, all animals eat other animals. There's clips of it, scientific reports. Yes, humans study these animals and find out about it. And no, it will not be published in the mainstream media. And no, you will not hear about it in the school system because the people who are pushing veganism are behind it. And the richest industries are the grain and sugar industries. That includes gorillas, elephants, all the animals which you were manipulated to believe only eat plants. There is no such thing. Some of them eat more meat, some of them eat less, but all of them do. Now you may say, those are smaller animals, so their lives don't matter so much. Whatever. What kind of a logic is that? If all the bigger animals would be killed, then they would become the biggest animals. And if all the smallest ones would be killed, we would become the smallest animals. Meaning that big and small are words of comparison. Their lives are just as real as ours, and yet they eat each other because they are natural and we aren't anymore. I am, but you get it.
The day's fresh poultry are slaughtered, placed in cones that help keep them calm and make it easier to drain their blood.
Are you collecting for a reason?
Yeah, because you're going to take a shot of it, right?
Are you really serious?
I'm serious.
And you do this for
It's extremely nutritious. And
nutrition
tasty.
and
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, it's life.
I love you.
Huh?
It's very good.
It's warm, salty, almost milky.
It's
it
not
tastes
as-
like liver to me. It tastes like
Exactly.
liquid
No, it's
liver.
not as doesn't taste as much like a bloody Band-Aid as cow blood or lamb's blood. It's good tasting
Yeah.
blood.
If you don't want to look into this because of your denial, even the official numbers will tell you that most animals eat other animals, even though it's actually all of them, once you research it. So do you not care about them now? Or how does your mentally ill head work? I'm actually curious. When you're so severely ill, does it not have to make sense to you because you follow the religion blindly? And we can say 100% that humans eat raw animals in nature. Weston Price and many other scientists and doctors have traveled the earth and studied many groups of humans. Some eat only raw, some eat 50-50, some eat mostly cooked, but all of them do. And what about plants? As I proved in the documentary, The NWO Diet, plants also eat animals, and there used to be giant trees, bushes that ate humans. What would you do about them? It's the most illogical thing ever created by man. It is insanity. And there's still bushes that eat sheep and such.
In this article, you will see there is this diagram, and it's titled "The Relative Gut Proportions for Extant Hominoids." That would be gibbons, siamangs, orangutans, gorilla, Chinese, and chimpanzees and humans. And what we've got here is these 6 species, stomach, the size of the stomach relative to the total intestinal length. Then we've got the small intestine length, then the cecum and the colon. And what it shows is humans are utterly different, completely different. Their gut is utterly different from all the other primates. And why is it different? So humans are different because they do not have a different stomach. The stomach is relative to the total intestine, same length. The smaller intestine is much larger, much longer. It's much longer in relative terms. And the cecum, which is the start of the large colon, is much less, and the colon itself is very short. And I showed you that diagram. These animals with these huge colons have massive extended abdomens because they ferment food. They ferment cellulose and produce saturated fat, which they then use for their metabolism. We don't do that. We do all our digestion, or most of it, in the small intestine. So that's the crucial difference. And the reason we do that is because we are carnivores and we do not have to ferment. So, digestion and absorption of nutrient-dense foods occurs in the small intestine, and that's where we focus our energy. What we do is we go and kill animals which have lots of fat in their bodies. And then we've invested, instead of having this huge colon to degenerate the fats, we say, well, let's let them do the job. We'll kill them, we'll eat them, and then we can get rid of all this wasted energy in the colon. So digestion and absorption of nutrient-dense foods occurs in the small bowel, and the fermentation of nutrient-poor foods, we leave it to the other animals, and we don't have a large colon. And this is absolute evidence that humans are carnivorous. We're designed for carnivory. We're not designed for fermenting plants in a large colon and cecum. Now the chimpanzee is different. Can you see it's much leaner? It doesn't have that huge gut. Why? Because it added fruit to the diet, and fruit has got more calories in it, more energy dense, and so it didn't need to eat as much. And this animal eats 12 hours a day. And that's why there's no gorillas in the audience, because they have to eat all day. And they couldn't have time off. And the same with the chimpanzee. Chimpanzee will stop eating for 20 minutes and go and hunt. If it doesn't catch something in 20 minutes, it stops because it must go and eat. And why we're different is we eat meat, and that allows us to make our gut much smaller. And so we don't have this fermenting capacity.
Not to mention the obvious, all plants, the soil, live off of animals in nature. That's not what vegans want. They want to chemicalize everything, and then they wonder, why is our soil dead? Why do our plants have so little nutrients? Because you're doing it unnaturally, okay? When you eat wild plants, you eat the animals along with the plants. That's where they come from. That's where a lot of the nutrients come from. Let me explain it to you. A plant grows. An animal which has been created to eat and digest the plant will do so, and another animal which has been created to eat that animal and digest it will also do so, and so on. And the leftovers and what they shit out will be used as a fertilizer. It comes out, it goes back in, and it comes out again. You should also do your thing when you're in the forest, anywhere, even on this field, and it smells like cow shit everywhere here.
A group of things on this planet that can capture the energy of the sun and convert it into solid matter. And these are plants. Plants have photosynthesis, so they're able to capture the energy of the sun and convert it into solid matter that can be eaten. Then Mother Nature created a group of herbivorous animals which can consume the energy of the sun in the form of plants, consume the grasses, consume the plant matter. And in order for this group of animals to be able to break down the plants, digest them properly, and convert them into another form of solid matter, into meat and milk and eggs and fish, Mother Nature provided them with a very special digestive system. Herbivorous animals have got several stomachs called rumens, and their stomachs are filled with bacteria, with microbes. So it's not the cow that digests the grass, it's the microbes in her stomachs, in her rumen, that break down the grass for the cow. The interesting thing is that the cow actually chews the same mouthful of grass about 200 times. That's what zoologists have calculated. She would chew one mouthful of grass for a little bit, break it down, then send it down into the rumen. The bacteria in the rumen will work on it and extract what they can out of it, and then they'll send it back into the mouth. She'll regurgitate it. And she'll munch it again for a little bit, and then send it back into the stomach, and that happens 200 times with the same mouthful of grass. And another fascinating fact that I have discovered recently is that most carbohydrate in the plant matter, in the grasses and in other plants, that the herbivorous animals swallow, is converted by these bacteria in their rumen into short-chain fatty acids. So they absorb all that carbohydrate largely as fat. So herbivorous animals, the cows and the elephants and the zebras and the giraffes and deer and other herbivorous animals, they are on an extremely high-fat diet. That is why they're so huge. And it's the bacteria inside their digestive systems that break down all these plants for us. We humans don't have a rumen. We only have one small stomach. And we have no bacteria in that stomach if you're healthy. A healthy stomach in a healthy human is the least populated area of our digestive system. The numbers of bacteria, they count in hundreds, which is a very meager number. Instead, human stomach produces acid and pepsin. And these two things are only fit to break down one group of foods effectively, and that is animal foods. They are fit to break down meat and animal fat and fish and eggs and milk. They are not fit to break down plants at all. That is why the plant world is indigestible for human beings. Most of them, when we consume them in a raw state in particular, in their natural state, they go all through our digestive system and they finish up practically undigested in the bowel, where the bacteria, that's our equivalent of the rumen, where the bacteria work on them and break them partially down and convert them again into short-chain fatty acids. So we absorb them as fat, and that's a boost to our human metabolism. But if you try to live entirely on these plant foods, you will run into trouble, as vegans do. In the laboratory, our nutritional science have been working on plants for a long time, and when we break down plants in the laboratory, we find that they're full of nutrition. They have large amounts of protein and fats and carbohydrates and this vitamin and that vitamin and this substance and that substance. And then this information is published in tables in the nutritional literature and in popular literature, and that lures vegetarians and vegans into a false sense of security. They look at all these tables and they say, oh gosh, look at all this wonderful nutrition I'm getting from munching on my carrots and spinach. But the trouble is, these tables are misleading. They're downright deceptive, because in the laboratory we can use all sorts of methods and chemicals to extract nutrients from plants. Methods and chemicals which human digestive system does not possess. A cow possesses those methods, and a sheep possesses them because they're herbivorous animals and they have a rumen. We humans don't possess them. So human digestive system cannot extract all that goodness out of those plants. They're indigestible for us. So they do not feed you.
I made a video about pain over a year ago. The link will be in the description also, because I don't want to talk about it all over again. It's just that vegans like to mention the pain and the suffering of the animals and their own pain. Of course, it's always done online. I wonder why. Nobody buys this act. I will reveal at the end of this video why they are biologically incapable of caring about any creatures. It's impossible. Pain is a learning tool, and we don't require it at the time of death anymore. It's useless. We are not gonna hit our leg anywhere anymore. So much for animal cruelty. When we go into shock, we paralyze our bodies. There is no pain. And when an animal dies in nature, it also smiles sometimes, because it understands that it served its purpose. It understands its nature. Ah. I'm sun gazing, by the way. That's why I'm not looking at the camera.
The lions that were kept in the zoos were fed on modern diets, and the zookeepers couldn't figure out why the lions weren't able to reproduce. And then they finally realized that lions in the wild will eat the organs of animals when they first kill them. So they started providing organ meats to the lions, and all of a sudden the lions started reproducing. So, these people who sort of failed to understand, it was that they were failing to understand the laws of nature, not that they were dividing between what they thought was appropriate for humans and what they thought was appropriate for other animals. And, a really good example of a talk that I saw that sort of delved into this topic further was John Durant's talk about zoos that he gave at the Ancestral Health Symposium last year. And he basically traced the history of zoos and showed that, for as long as people have been keeping animals captive, they've basically had parallel concerns about the humans in their society and the captive animals. And he basically concluded by saying now that zookeepers are starting to realize that we can learn a lot about how to keep zoo animals healthy by looking at the animal's natural wild habitat. So now we are also starting to look at how to keep humans healthy by looking at humans in their natural sort of quote unquote wild habitat.
If your body doesn't want to experience something, it will black out. It's a natural response. Even more so today because of how unnatural our lives are. All the situations which we are not confronted with anymore is what makes us into such pussies. We are afraid of everything. Our ancestors would laugh at us. And non-meat eaters? What kind of a joke is that? Everybody would laugh at us. As proven in studies, they have lowered testosterone. And you can see how they are. That's how we got to this point. They grow up watching Disney cartoons, and thanks to Enslaved by Media for reminding me of this, they see animals portrayed as these fluffy beings talking to them. Go go gaga, animal my friend. I don't realize that I'm an animal myself, and that when animals are friends with each other in nature, they are because they kill other animals. That's all you do. So these kids get a pet animal such as a dog who is domesticated and they don't realize that in nature all they would do all day is eat raw meat together with this dog. It's not as if it's not natural to be friends with animals, because we are animals and we are friends with each other and we can be friends with other species. But love happens when you have a spiritual connection to another being, when you spend a lot of time with them and your energy connects. This does not happen when you are hungry and you go hunt. Very different. Everything about veganism is very anti-human, so they definitely hate animals. Some of them even want to castrate us. Hello, veganism equals infertility. There's no need. If you follow this diet, you are castrated. If you're some delusional vegan in your 20s who just started, believing that you're going to have a big family, you're not even going to have one child. You missed the point of veganism. It's about destroying humans, so we can't reproduce. It's also more or less the definition of Satanism because of how much it goes against nature. If you don't want to support factory farming, then don't. It's up to you. I eat meat and I don't support them. There's a lot of proper farms and wild animals. If you don't want antibiotics in your food, then eat organic. If you eat non-organic fruit, then you're also getting antibiotics, aka pesticides. It doesn't mean that all of it is like that. It's up to you. You can choose.
This is a paper, I think it was the Telegraph, showing that if you raise your babies on a vegan diet, that is now illegal in Italian law. And of course it has to be illegal because a vegan diet does not have the nutrients to allow the child's brain to develop. Parents who force a vegan diet onto their children would face prison under a new law proposed in Italy. Parents who provide children aged 16 and under with a diet lacking essential elements for a healthy growth, and those essential elements come from meat and fish and dairy and eggs, could face up to 2 years of prison.
I've known many vegans for months and for years, and none of them ever talked about animals. The only thing you will hear is hate towards humans. That's guaranteed. So how come? You would think that they would mention it at least once, if they ever think about it. Here comes the truth. When your body is starving, it actually shuts off empathy, because it's not important for survival. They are incapable of anything even close to that. When you eat carbohydrates anyway, but because of all the animal nutrients that they are not getting, for the full list, watch my documentary, The NWO Diet, their organs shut off. Cholesterol, brain, mental illness, that's what's going on here. This is the acting you see in the videos, caring about these poor animals. They use it as an excuse to hate humans because that's all that they can think about. Hate, misery, frustration. They eat the meat which I want to eat. Jealousy. All they can think about is kill, kill, kill. This is the anger coming out of them because their body wants to eat. The only way you can start feeling empathy again and all the other stuff that shuts off, such as your fertility, is when you are nourished from animals, and that's when you can make other animal friends. Otherwise, forget about it. This is why we should ridicule them whenever we get the chance, because everything that they do is to destroy us.